you put your book online, but no one is reading it. You check the statistics and most people are clicking off before even reaching chapter 1. They can't even get past the prologue. What the hell is going on here? Well, I can think of 3 reasons. You're probably not writing good hooks, maybe your grammar is bad, and maybe you're breaking genre conventions. I'm going to go through all 3 of them one by one, starting off with writing good hooks, or the lack thereof in your story. Look, if you're putting your stuff online, whether that's as an ebook or some website like Royal Road or Scribble Hub, which parts of the story do you think the most amount of readers read? Well, starting off, the title of your book or the name of your book, yes, and the synopsis or the blurb of your book. They're not the same thing, but some websites you have to put them as one. You can't put them separately. And after that is the first chapter. That can be a prologue or that can be chapter 1. If your title is uninteresting, well, that's not too big of a problem as long as it's representative of the book that you write. I have had problems with this. Readers are usually nice enough to still read the blurb or the synopsis. Now this needs to be hooking. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but readers do. Reader will judge a book by its cover, and in the back cover, if there's a synopsis, they will judge your book by that. By reading the synopsis, they will know what genre the book is. They know what to expect. Readers want something sufficiently fresh and sufficiently familiar. So they want to read the same thing, but different. Get it? If you try to be too creative, then I'll explain what happens more in the third point, breaking genre conventions. But here, if your synopsis is not good enough, then a lot of people might not buy the book. And if it's online, they might not click start reading or chapter 1, whatever. And which part of chapter 1 do you think the most amount of readers read? That's right, the first sentence, then the first paragraph, then probably the first part, and then the whole chapter. If I go back and look at my statistics for my story, Applied Cultivation, huge number of Royal Road users, more than 20,000 have clicked on chapter 1. But on my latest chapter, I think I'm only getting 4,000, 3,000 viewers at this point. I think if I wait long enough, then by the time I'm releasing, say, chapter 150, my current chapter 107, 108 will probably have 6,000, 7,000 readers, but that takes some time. A lot of readers like to wait and binge books, but that's beside the point. If my book didn't have a story or characters or a mystery good enough to hold the interest of the reader from chapter 1, then they will not click chapter 2. Some readers are more generous. They like to give you 5 chapters, or they like to give your story 10 chapters of the benefits of the doubt. I hope that made sense. And after that, they will decide if they will click the follow button. Maybe they might even click the favorite button if it's a genre they like. And if you're being too creative with that genre, they might give you a scathing 0.5 stars review. You need to be able to write good hooks. This is a foundational skill. Good hooks can be a lot of things. It can be cliffhangers. For writers of Royal Road, cliffhangers are really important because usually the convention of making money there is you put free chapters online that you publish every week regularly, whether that's 3 or 4 or 1 or 5 chapters a week. And then you say to the readers like, hey, look, you like my story. If you want to read ahead, I have 20 chapters hidden away in Patreon. If you just pay me $5, then you get to read them behind all the other plebeians. But if you spoil the story, and the thing that drives the reader to go to Patreon is probably dopamine, the go-get-it hormone. And how do you trigger the dopamine response in the reader's brain? Well, you write a fun story with fun cliffhangers. Some cliffhangers can make readers frustrated. If you put cliffhangers on every chapter end, then it's just going to tire them out. A better way, I think, is to craft better characters and a better overarching mystery so that the reader is really invested. What happens next? All these are gently guiding the reader from one point of your story to the next point of your story. And these are hooks, and your hooks need to be active. You have to plan how to write them. This is not emotional manipulation in a bad way, because the readers want you to manipulate them. The readers want you to convince them that they are in another world. This is called immersion. And if your hooks are good enough, if you take care and put the love into the story, you gently hold the hands of your blindfolded reader and take them from point A to B to C to Z, then they're going to thank you at the end. They're going to say, thank you for manipulating me. Thank you for triggering my dopamine response. You have given me this amazing experience. That is one of the ways how you can make a reader read your book. And if this thing is absent, then that's one of the reasons why someone else is not reading your book. Okay, that was reason number one. Are you hooked yet? Do you think it's going to come next? Well, I already spoiled it. It's grammar. But to go back on the hook again, I hope I have hooked you guys long enough to give my video a like and pressing that subscribe button. It really, as a lit RPG author, it really makes me happy when I see numbers go up.
So please make the numbers go up.
Okay, going back to the boring stuff, grammar. Everyone hates the grammar Nazi, but you know what people hate more? Unedited books, uncopy edited books. I don't know if that's the correct term, but look, this is a demonic path. If you write a book in English, say, where there's a lot of grammatical rules, a lot of native English speakers will have a really hard time even concentrating when they read a word spelled wrongly, or something that should end in an exclamation mark or a period or a question mark that ends in some weird other @ symbol or pound sign. Like, you don't make that mistake. That bad grammar is one of the things that can break reader immersion the fastest. If you think you have this amazing story, you know, it's the book of the ages, it's going to make you immortal, but it has bad grammar, well,
It's a bad story by definition.
no one is going to read far enough to actually understand why the story is so great, because they don't understand what you've written. Fix your grammar, please, especially in the first chapters, in the synopsis, in the title. If a reader sees you have made a typo, oopsie, in the first paragraph or the first line, then that's going to give them a bad impression of the rest of the book. No one wants to slog through badly edited chapters. A lot of weebs like me are used to kind of reading machine translated novels, mostly Japanese, Korean, or Chinese novels. I used to badly translate novels from Japanese to English for free and put it up on our group website. Rest in peace, my group website. But yeah, those are not the only people you're targeting though. You cannot count on a reader being a masochist, someone who enjoys or can tolerate reading through sentences where the subject and verbs don't agree, where you have typos every other word, and where the sentence structure or formatting is so weird that it has some lines have indents and some other lines don't have indents. Just no. This is the most basic thing. If you want people to read your novel, you have to respect their time. Whether a story is good or bad is very subjective, but whether a grammar is good or bad is not subjective. If you expect people to read your book while having bad grammar, you are not respecting your reader's time. Please, edit your novel. This is as bad as the worst cardinal sins in human life. The expectation that people will read your book even if it has bad grammar. Look, some book might get ahead. There might be an exception to the rule, some case study where someone just didn't even use the free version of Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid or whatever. Some AI, non-AI tool to go through their novel and fix that. Maybe they still succeed. Maybe some books have a few typos here and there, but that does not give you permission to upload and expect good feedback for bad grammar. It just doesn't. You guys can feel my passion in this. I'm ranting, I'm rambling. It's just I've received so many questions and so many, hey, dear catchy, this is my story. Why is it not doing well? I go and I open the first chapter and boom, immediately I see 8 typos, 5 wrong pronouns, subject verb disagreements in such a horrendous level. It's just some sentences using past tense narration, the others using present tense narration, and not in a way that it makes sense. It's just bad, and bad grammar is just bad. No one will read your book. Fix your grammar. Many more people will read your book. That was fun talking about that. I want to touch on one other point before ending this video. Let me remind you to subscribe to my channel again. Subscribe, please. Breaking genre conventions, which can cause reputation loss. Look, I mentioned this many times before, but readers want something sufficiently fresh while being sufficiently familiar. They don't want something they've never even seen before, but they don't want to read the exact same word-to-word copy of another book. That's plagiarism. You'll be reported. What they want is still to read an isekai, a portal fantasy, but about a different dude being transported into a different world and solving problems, different problems that exist with different kinds of solutions, and that's fun. Someone who is into reading romantasy still wants to read a story where there's swords and sorcery and magic and witchcraft, but there's romance too. But not about this one character with this other character. They want something different. But they want something the same. They want romantasy. This is genre. If you're writing a romance novel, the expectation of the story is that the people will end up together at the end. This doesn't always happen. If the writer is good enough, then maybe they can craft a story where the main couple doesn't end up together. That makes logical sense in the context of the story, and the reader was taken through an amazing journey regardless, where they feel satisfied with that outcome. Maybe you think you're good enough to write such a story, but to know how to break the rules, you have to know the rules. So my recommendation is just put the main couple together at the end. God damn it. There's this one light novel I read where 2 people gets transported from a fantasy world to the current world, and they have these whole adventures through 22, 25 volumes or something. They have this child, not real child, but some kind of magical child, and they should have ended up together, and they didn't end up together. And the author's next book is about 2 mystical or supernatural beings working in modern society. And it's a book that goes through the same template as his first book, but I am not going to read that novel. 22 volumes, give or take a few. That's a huge commitment, a time commitment. There was an expectation that has been set when I read the title, the synopsis, read the tags of the story, and I want that expectation to be met. I've noticed this especially with the web novel readers, that there is a promise, a handshake between the reader and the writer. You give me what I want, and what I want is not to think, oh, that plot twist was so amazing, I never saw it coming. No, that's not what I want. What I want is, I knew it was going to be like that. I saw that plot twist coming from a mile away. Okay, maybe that was a imperfect example, because in some genres, some readers really like to be surprised with not seeing the plot twist coming in a particular way. But regardless, you have to craft the story according to the genre conventions. And if you break those conventions in chapter 5 or chapter 10 or even chapter 1, then readers are not going to read your novel. If you write a whole book following the genre conventions, but the ending is kinda rushed maybe, and you you have the gall to have two romantic characters not end up together. I'm not going to read your next book, but there's always exception to the rule. I'm talking about Rainbow Rowell. I will read all your books, but most of the time it's not the case. For example, the Japanese author that I shall not name because I don't want to spoil the story for you guys. It's weird. Literary fictions, I don't go with genre conventions in mind when I read them. I am expected to be taken on a journey that is deep and profound, and I think it was Franz Kafka who said this, but basically if a book doesn't knock on your head and wake you up, then it's not a good book. I want to be shocked when I'm reading these kind of literary essays, literary short stories or novels. I don't care about the genre there. But when I'm reading a romantasy, when I'm reading a romance, when I'm reading xianjia, Chinese Eastern fantasy, when I'm reading an isekai, when I'm reading dungeon core story, when I'm reading a science fiction space opera, these books, there's certain things that I want. In a space opera, I want cool battle between spaceships. In a dark academia, I want it to be emotionally intense and dark and gritty, maybe even grim dark sometimes. I don't want it to be happy-go-lucky academia. That's not why I'm reading the book. And if I see in the first few chapters that something breaks the genre so badly, the convention so badly, okay, first few chapters I might still give it a try. But the first book, if I see the book marketed under the tag lit RPG and I don't see any stats or any screens, then I am going to be mad and I'm not going to buy the second book. So yeah, that was a lot of rambling. Have you subscribed yet? Okay. So you have to write good hooks. Please fix your grammar and study the genre, please. A lot of writers, before they become writers like me, have been readers for a long time. I have read isekai and lit RPG and romance for a long time. So that's what I want to write in a fun way. Maybe I'll even throw in some philosophical messages here and there. But I know the genre and I know if I don't keep my promise to the reader, if I break the genre convention, the reader has all the rights in the world not to read my novel. Especially so if I'm taking money, whether through Patreon or Kindle Unlimited. This is important, even though it must not feel important. So yeah, those were some reasons why I think readers are not reading your novel. There are some other reasons novels fail. You can click on one of these videos. There are some other reasons novels fail. You can click on the video that appears on the screen to watch that. And I really hope I have convinced you guys to fix your grammar and research the genre and watch some videos on how to write good hooks. See ya!